we're going to move on to loans. And this is a very scary topic for a lot of students and their parents. And it can be very intimidating and confusing at the same time. So I'm going to start off by talking about subsidized and unsubsidized loans. These loans are federal loans that are offered to students either at the undergrad or graduate level. And the subsidized loan specifically is, I call the good loan. There's no such thing as a good loan, but this one I specifically know it as the good loan because it doesn't occur interest until after graduation. And it's the one that we recommend the students choose or select first if they really are in need of obtaining a loan for school. The unsubsidized loan, interest starts upon accepting this loan. So as soon as you accept this loan, interest begins to occur. And the subsidized loan, it doesn't mean that it's not occurring interest. It just means that it is, but the government is paying that interest off and you're not responsible for it. Both loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, have the same interest rate, and they change every year. So just for this year, the 2019-2020 school year, the interest rate for both loans is 4.53%. In order to receive these loans, there's two requirements that must be completed. First is going to be the entrance counseling, which is that walks you through the steps of what it means to take out a loan. It's kind of like a virtual model. And then the master promissory note is signing that you're going to pay back the loan once you graduate. If these two requirements are not completed, then even though you've accepted the loans, they will not disperse and pay out to your student account. So keep that in mind. A lot of students panic because they accept the loans, but they haven't paid out. And that's usually because one of these two requirements hasn't been met. And both requirements are completed through studentloans.gov. Another option, if you exhaust both the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan, another option would be a Parent Plus loan. And Parent Plus loans basically means that the parent applies for a loan through studentloans.gov, and you will immediately know if the parent has been accepted or denied. The interest rate for the Parent Plus loan is a lot higher at 7.08% for this school year. It can be an option, but parents have to be willing to take out this loan because in the end, the Parent Plus loan will be under the parent's name. Finally, private loans are loans that are taken out through private banks such as like US Bank, Wells Fargo, credit unions. And these specifically, there is different interest rates depending on the bank that you decide to go with. And usually they have higher interest rates than the federal loans, like subsidized, unsubsidized, and Parent Plus.
One thing I want to make sure we mention there is that, the students on here might be wondering how likely is it that I'll need loans? And the truth is most students end up using loans throughout their college careers. It just depends on how much. For the majority of students, they'll be taking some sort of loan. And like Yuri has mentioned, the best case scenario is that if you can take out a subsidized loan, because that would basically mean that you have a lot of wiggle room to use those funds without accruing additional interest costs. So for example, if I have $1,000 in a subsidized loan and I manage to pay that off within 6 months of graduating from college, then I just pay $1,000. But if I have $1,000 in unsubsidized loans from the federal government, by the time I graduate and start making payments, I'll be paid more than $1,000 back because of that interest that has been occurring over time. And that's not to say that subsidized loans wouldn't accrue interest. If you take longer than those 6 months to be able to pay those funds back, then you'll start to see some of those interest costs add on to the loan that you took originally. But yeah, keep in mind that for most students, it is pretty normal to take out loans, and it's pretty a typical part of that college experience. Um, I have a lot of students who are really afraid of loans, and parents who are very concerned about student debt for their kids. And that's very, very normal. That's very okay to feel. I would suggest that you talk with someone when you compare it and just kind of project what that would look like for you in the future. Uh, Keep in mind that some scholarships you might receive for 4 years straight. And if you have those, it's pretty nice because it might look that your financial need for loans is going to be pretty stable. But perhaps you got a lot of loans your first year, and or I mean, sorry, scholarships your first year, and maybe not so many after that. So what does that mean for you? Do you need to take a part-time job to help you out? Or does that mean you're going to supplement that difference in scholarship money with more loans? It's good to keep all of that in mind because you want to project for 4 years or more, depending on how long it's going to take you to complete your degree. What you see the first year, you might want to multiply by 4 and say, is that something I think I could manage after? I think someone once told me that if you have up to the amount in loans that you would make in your first year in the career that you are aiming for, that's a pretty good bar to try to stay under. I've never tested that myself because I only got one shot, but I did hear that you want to base that also on your potential income once you have your degree, because you kind of want to see it as an investment. Yeah, so any questions there from the students? I know loans can be kind of scary to think about.
Yes, and I would also add, I didn't mention this, Jose touched on it a little bit about the 6-month deferment period. So that basically means that you have 6 months until after you graduate until you start having to make payments on those loans. So there's like that wiggle room right there. So you don't have to pay back your loans right away as soon as you graduate, and the next day you need to start making payments. There's a 6-month deferment period. And if you're taking a break from school, or you're taking a year off, you might fall into that deferment and have to start paying back. But once you are enrolled again, then you will go back to deferment, and you don't have to pay back the loans while you're still in school, if that makes sense. Another thing that I also wanted to add is that when you start paying back the loans, you're not paying the loans back to the institution. So for example, if I went to OSU, took out a couple of loans, once it's time to make those payments, I don't make them to OSU. There is loan servicers for each of these loans. So make sure you know how to navigate that specifically. NSLDS.ed.gov is the website where you can find who your loan servicer is. And you want to make sure you log on there with the information of your FAFSA, and you will be able to find the contact information of who is the loan servicer that loan you those loans through the school, and then you can start making a payment plan with them. So that communication would happen right there and not with the institution.